Well, we do receive emails here at the Core, and you can email us anytime with your question. Here's our email address. It's questions@corechristianity.com. And Adriel, this email came in from Tiffany, and it's a troubling one. She says, I'm having a horrible time and need some guidance. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2023 with symptoms I've been dealing with since I was in my early 20s. I'm now 36 years old. I was baptized 2 years ago, and my faith has been a roller coaster. Sometimes I feel so far away from God, and at other times I feel like I'm closer and doing well. My husband told me last night he wants a divorce due to the issues and actions of my bipolar disorder, and I am lost. Any help or advice would be appreciated.
Well, Tiffany, I'm so sorry to hear about this situation. And Bill, I want to get your wisdom with regard to how to best deal with things like bipolar disorder. From my end, Tiffany, what I want to say to you is part of the challenge here is not letting our feelings dictate for us whether or not God is present in our lives and for us to bless us. And this is something that every one of us as Christians, I think, struggle with, but I think especially for you with bipolar disorder, it's going to be even more of a battle. And it's so important for us as believers to realize that the presence of God is not mediated to us by our feelings, right? You wake up one day and you feel one way, and you wake up the next day and you feel another way, and you think, well, did the Lord leave me? Am I no longer walking in the Lord's grace? And so we have to be really, really careful, because we walk not by sight, but by faith. And faith isn't the same thing as feelings. Faith is the trust and the rest that we have in God's promises, which don't come and go, but which are concrete. And those promises are exhibited to us through the preaching of the gospel and through the ordinances of grace, baptism, and the Lord's Supper. And so I think it's really important for you, as you wrestle with this, feeling like God is distant from you, it's so important for you to be in a good church where the Lord's Supper is being administered weekly, given to you, and you have this concrete, tangible promise of God, we might say, there to sink your teeth into. God's saying to you, this is my body. Jesus saying to you, this is my body given for you. This is my blood shed for you. You may not feel like it, but this is real. This is concrete. This is objective. Lay hold of it. Receive my grace by faith. And you need the community of faith as well to encourage you. And it seems like your husband as well. In marriage, we're committed to each other for better or for worse, in sickness and in health. And so my hope would be that your church would also come alongside of your husband, encouraging him and helping him to love you and to walk alongside of you as well. And so may the Lord be with you, Tiffany. And let me just say again, the hope of God's grace and of God's presence is rooted in the promises that he gives to us in the gospel. Christ was crucified for us and for our redemption, for your sins. And every time you hear that preached and every time you see it exhibited in the Lord's Supper, know that it's for you. Lay hold of it. And Bill, I just want your thoughts with regard to maybe some other wisdom for her in coping with the bipolar disorder.
Well, two things I would say. First of all, I love your recommendation to be really going to the local church for support, for help, not just for her feelings about, being distant from God, but also for this marriage. And I would hope and pray that both Tiffany and her husband are plugged into a solid Bible-believing church where there are understanding people who care about them, and perhaps a pastoral counselor or a Christian therapist in the area who really understands mental illness and understands how it contributes to the issues of marital problems. Now, Tiffany mentioned she'd been diagnosed. My prayer is that she's also being treated effectively, because there are medications that can treat bipolar effectively. A lot of times it's finding the right medication and being on it for a while. And I understand when you're really depressed, you may feel far from God. When you're in a manic phase, you feel like everything's great and you're close to him. And, Tiffany mentioned something significant, Adriel, that, there were some behaviors, there's some issues that came up because of her bipolar. And I don't know what those are, if they have to do with financial or other issues. But I would say you're right. Her husband needs to extend extra grace and compassion to her right now. And they really need to get into the office of a good marital therapist who understands these issues, working in, I would say, in contact with her psychiatrist who's prescribing the proper medication.
Thank you for that insight, Bill.